Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula. Registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Thank you so much for joining us today here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker, Scott Kerschner, and Troy Kerschner. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. It's 419-794-3030. Online, arhq.com. Today on the show, where can you find your investment fees and expenses, how to create a business succession plan for a small business owner, and should you keep working in your retirement years? All this and more. But first, let me check in with the guys. Nolan, Scott, Troy, glad to be with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, yeah. Just finished up another great weekend of hockey. Always love the weekends, usually in one of the arenas around town. We had a really good game last Saturday, tied 3-3. Anthony Wayne versus Clay goes into sudden death overtime, and Seth Kirby scored it for the final goal for an Anthony Wayne win. So good way to get the boys fired up. A nice overtime win over at Tam O'Shanter.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Haven't been on the show for a while. It's been a really, really busy time for AMA, but I'm glad to be back. And it's kind of fun now because I can kind of relax on the weekends and kind of actually enjoy a little bit. Unfortunately, our Bengals, Troy, aren't in the playoffs this year, but we are watching some fun and exciting football this past weekend, and ready to get rolling into or finish up with OEP.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and talk about that, actually, because remember, at the tail end of last year was the annual election period, and that kept you very, very busy, Scott and Troy, both of you. Right now, it is the open enrollment period of Medicare. Let's talk about that, because I think people might hear annual election period, open enrollment period, not really know the difference. Can you explain exactly what this open enrollment period means to people over the age of 65 and what they should be paying attention to before this period ends?
Sure, absolutely. It's funny, when I do my educational events, I always, during my presentation, I ask some questions, and, I try to get a little bit of the audience involved, and I ask them, who can tell me what period we're in, and I usually do these events during the annual enrollment period, and, I hear shouts from the crowd, and Troy, you can attest to this, but they all say, open enrollment. It's like, well, no, it's not open enrollment. It's actually the annual enrollment. Well, now, January 1st through March 31st is actually the open enrollment period. So let me take just a couple of minutes here and explain exactly what it is, and then what you can do during that period, and then how Troy and I at AMA can help you out with that. So what the actual open enrollment period is, it like I said, is from January through March 31st. This is the time for Medicare when you can make that one last do-over change, so to speak, to your Medicare plan. Now, what this means is, if you have an Advantage plan, you can make a change to that plan during that period. If you make a change in January, it becomes effective February, and February becomes effective in March, and so on. March would be effective April 1st. Once you make that change, then that plan and that policy is in force for the rest of that period. Okay? So if you were to sign up for an Advantage plan during the annual enrollment period, see, I just kind of fumbled that myself, but if you signed up for a plan during the annual enrollment period, and for whatever reason, when you moved into the January 1st time frame, and you went to a doctor that didn't take that plan for some reason, they dropped, or a medication went off of the formulary that we may have missed, or maybe you've gone on a new drug that's not covered on that plan, and you want to make a change, this is when we do that change, and we've run into that a lot. When the people came in, one of the things, Troy, when we sat with the clients, they always said, prescriptions are killing us, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the one thing. I love my plan, but we got to do something with medications. Prescriptions are killing us. And You see these commercials all the time on TV about these, Ozempic and Trulicity and Mounjaro and a lot of these high dollar medications. Well, each company covers those medications differently. So if you're in a situation where the plan you originally signed up for last year isn't going to do what we thought it was going to do for this year, during the open enrollment period, we make that change. And then once again, next October 15th will be the annual enrollment period for 2024, and we can make a change again at that time for anything new. So one of the things that we do here at AMA is we'll actually sit down with you and go through all of the information again and make sure that if we do make that change, then we're going to make that change in a positive direction and make sure that it's going to work best for you going into 2024. The open enrollment period is here. Let's make sure that we take advantage of it. If for any of you out there that want to make some change to your plan, one last do-over or mulligan in the golf terms, you get that mulligan. Now is the time to do that moving into 2024. Troy, you have anything to add to that, or?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, here at AMA, we're here for the best interests of all of our clients, and there's a lot of great Advantage plans out there, but some of them might not be geared towards you. So our goal is just get you in for an appointment and find whatever plan is best geared towards you.
Exactly.
And the other thing I would say to that is I think, one of the things that is unique about what we do here and what America's Medicare Associates does is coming up on a Friday, it's February 16th, we have an open house here. So maybe you're either with us, maybe you're not with us, but if you have a question and you're wondering, do I have the right plan? Maybe you called an 800 number and all of a sudden you're switched plans and you've been kind of laying at bed at night saying, gosh, if something happens, I just want to make sure that I'm confident about what I have. And you want somebody to take a look at that and just say, hey, help you understand the pros and cons of what your plan is. Just as Troy points out, if you want to get a time set on the schedule, they also offer 30-minute telephone consultations, or we have that date, February 16th, is our open house. But again, as you talk about one last chance to try to get it right, and obviously with health insurance being, one of the biggest concerns for people that are close to or in retirement time, making sure that you get it right and making sure that you're educated about what your choices are is what we can do here, helping out around the headquarters.
Right. If any of you have are clients of a Advantage plan that has a prescription drug card with it, and you're having trouble getting your mail order renewable medications to you, reach out to us. There have been some issues. You would think that moving from 2023 to 2024, it should be a smooth transition. There have been issues. I was made aware of an issue just last week about a prescription drug plan that the medications didn't get moved over to the 2024, so now they have to put them all in new. We can help with all of that. So reach out to Troy or myself at americasmedicareassociates.com or on the ARHQ website. We're a click away.
Obviously, the hope is that during the annual election period, you got all your T's crossed, all your I's dotted, but perhaps you weren't working with America's Medicare Associates at the time, or you just want a second set of eyes on it. You want to make sure that this is, in fact, going to be the best plan for you going forward. It doesn't hurt to take a look, right? The number's 419-794-3030. You can also reach out, as Scott said there. You can go to arhq.com, click on the events tab, find out more about that open house coming up on February 16th, including how to reserve your space, and many other events coming up here. They're all on the events page at arhq.com. Scott and Troy, a lot of retirees find out too late, for the most part, that Medicare doesn't cover most nursing home stays. Can you go over what actually is covered, as well as what isn't covered? And I know part of the service that you guys offer, an AMA checklist as an added value. Can you talk a bit about that to make sure, like I said, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. There's a big misunderstanding with long-term care and skilled nursing. Troy's learned a ton over this past year with us, and he's going to talk a little bit here about the AMA checklist that we put together and some of the key highlight points in there. But one thing that I will mention, and I'll let Troy take over here in a second, is Medicare does not cover long-term care, right? I mean, It does not cover the long-term care. Now, one thing that I want to make sure that a lot of people understand is skilled nursing, long-term care coverage. If you're in the hospital and you come out of the hospital, you may go to a skilled nursing facility, right? That's technically a long-term care facility as well. So that's where a lot of the confusion comes into play. The skilled nursing is to help people get back to where they can go home and do their daily functions and gain their strength back and things like that. Troy, you can tell the story about Grandma, when she broke her back. But Troy, why don't you add a little bit to the long-term care and how we help them?
Yeah, a lot of our clients out there don't really understand what exactly Medicare covers. And one of the things that it unfortunately doesn't cover is long-term care. And I know you mentioned the example about Grandma. She actually fell and broke her back. She's doing great now, might I add. But when she did fall and break her back, she was in a skilled nursing facility for about 3 weeks. And that was all covered. But if she were to stay there for about 100 days or more, then nothing past that 100 days would have been covered. And one way for us to cover this issue here is we would do a hybrid policy that we would sign them up for, and then it'd be a different type of long-term care rider, and we'd just have to attach a couple of different things with it, but we would be able to take care of them regardless.
And, really when we think about it, as we think about nursing homes in general, a lion's share of the time, I think it comes down to what is called custodial care.
Absolutely.
Meaning, as we get older, we just generally slow down and, we don't have the ability to perform our normal activities of daily living. And, slowing down in life, that's where we talk about there's no coverage for your Medicare. Skilled care, a similar example in my family situation. On my wife's side, my grandmother had fallen during Thanksgiving. She had broke her hip. She went to the hospital, stayed at the hospital for a couple of days, and then went to a skilled nursing facility.
Right.
And at that skilled facility was, just helping her get improvement to be able to come back home.
Exactly.
Now, even in that situation, there's quite a bit of criteria that has to be followed, such as, the hospital stay, such as Troy that you had pointed out, during days 1 through 20, there's really no co-payment. Day 21 through day 100, it's a $200 a day co-payment. And then after day 100, you pay 100% of the cost. So it's not surprising that the average family really can get wiped out in a short amount of time when they need some long-term care. Now, the three of us, we had sat down and we talked about the fact of, now that you had gone past and gotten past the extremely busy fourth quarter, helping people make the selections on Medicare, supplement, Advantage plans, going back to clients and having a conversation and talking to them about making sure that we did cross the T's and dot the I's. Because I know whether you call an 800 number, maybe somebody came out to the house, or you're sitting down and working with us, health insurance and navigating the landscape can be something that's very confusing. And being that you guys do this full time, it's important to make sure that they understand all the ins and outs of where it's covered. Because the last thing you want to do is, years down the road, end up in a facility and all of a sudden you in a crisis situation and you get this big bill. So one of the things that we had come up with that we put together is the America's Medicare Associates, the checklist. Now, within the checklist, I think we've identified roughly 20 different things that we can help out with here around America's retirement headquarters. I think, one of the things that people love about working with us is how these things kind of overlap. So the decisions you make with your finances impact your health care and impact taxes and vice versa. But there was a couple of these items, Troy, that we had talked about that I think are areas that would be important that when people are looking at what does Medicare cover and what are some of the things that I should be focusing on the checklist, what are the other items that really kind of jump out to you?
Right. So the reason we made this checklist is just for the best need of our clients. We're always searching for that, and we just like to help in whatever ways we offer, and we want to make sure that you guys get everything, all the services that we offer. So one of the things that we have on the checklist is, do you currently have estate plans in place? And I know, Dad, you and Nolan made up a review of the ultimate estate planning checklist. So that's one of the things that we have on the checklist. Another one that we offer is a life insurance review. We also have, do you have any lazy assets earning less than 5%? And these are all things that we'll be able to help with. So we'll go through this list and just identify what we can help you with, and we'll be able to take care of it. Another thing we have is the 2024 tax roadmap and checklist, which is another thing we offer on there. And then we also do serve a Get Connected, which is where you come in for a second appointment or another appointment, and we'll just sit you down, go through the things we didn't first mention. And for your first Medicare appointment, we'll also just kind of go over help you set up your online account for whatever policy or plan you sign up for. And that's one of the other things that's on the list, and we'll just be able to help you in whatever way we can.
Yeah, that the Get Connected is something. I've been in this a long time, doing this for 29 years, and Nolan, I take a page from your history and your knowledge, and some of the things that you do with your investment clients is that Get Connected, and I think that is so valuable to the people. At least that's what the clients are telling us. So what we'll do with that Get Connected is we'll bring you back in, and once you get your ID card and your welcome packet from your insurance carrier, and then what we'll do is sit down and actually go through and create your online account. A lot of people don't have, a computer at home. They may have a iPad or something where they might use it on their phone. So we'll create that account, and then we'll make sure we do just kind of a recap of all of the benefits that they currently have in place. So that Get Connected is something that kind of sets us apart from a lot of the other advisors out there because a lot of people just don't do that and bring them back in. But like what Troy was talking about with that AMA checklist, there are several other items. Those are just kind of key highlighted points that we put out there. But there are all kinds of different things that we've put together to kind of find a uncovered need that you may have that you didn't realize you had, and unless somebody ask you about it, you may not think about it off the top of your head.
Well, I would agree. And it's so much easier to know now before a crisis situation happens. Not to say that we can't help in a crisis situation, but, using the one example of having a discussion about long-term care, there are multiple different solutions that are available for people who need long-term care. Of course, there's traditional long-term care insurance. There's annuities with chronic illness income riders. There are life insurance plans that offer riders that are associated with them. There's even, veteran benefits. And, I have had a handful of clients that we've met with, Vietnam veterans that have come in. And a lot of these Vietnam veterans have been impacted with Agent Orange. And so a lot of these veterans, as we're having this topic of conversation, they may not realize what their entitlements are through service to our country.
Sure.
We have here, in Lucas County, what's called the Veteran Service Organization. And most people that are listening, depending on whatever county you have, you also have a Veteran Service office that you can get together with people. And whether it's understanding, would a nursing home be covered if you needed long-term care? What are your benefits as a veteran if you end up going into a facility? And those are the type of things that, by going through this checklist, crossing the T's and dotting the I's, you're going to be able to make the best educated decision about should you make a decision to do something, because doing nothing is still a decision.
Right.
Doing nothing is really letting it lay up to chance. And we don't want to leave this up to chance. We want to put the odds in your favor and help make you be able to make a more informed decision. So if you want to get that AMA checklist, you want to go through that, you're worried about how to protect your assets from a nursing home, just give us a call at the office. We'd be happy to sit down to go through that AMA checklist. Make sure you've crossed the T's and dotted the I's on all the areas that could impact you and your loved ones moving forward.
And that number is 419-794-3030. Once again, 419-794-3030. It's the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. You don't want the what ifs to become what nows because of a lack of planning. You to take advantage of this, make sure that you have all those T's crossed, all those I's dotted. 419-794-3030 or arhq.com. Previously we were talking about making sure that the what ifs don't become what nows, because when you have to make those decisions under duress, that is sometimes when a lot of the wrong decisions get made, whether it is the market, whether it is, healthcare facilities, whether it is things like that. Funeral arrangements are also one of those things. The loss of a loved one is never a pleasant experience, but it's also something that is, it is unavoidable. But rather than try to make those decisions while you are dealing with the loss of a loved one under that duress, let's talk about, prepaid funeral arrangements and the benefits that doing that can provide.
Yeah, so in my opinion, one of the hardest parts about a passing of a loved one is the burden that's left on the family. Everybody's wondering what exactly they wanted for the funeral and all that all what goes into the funeral. But there's a plan that we offer that is a prepaid funeral plan. So all you simply do is you come in, we'll help you out, you signed up for it, and then you get extra coverage for that plan or for the funeral. And it offers a lot of great things. For example, it's protected from a Medicaid spend down. So no matter what happens to you, you're going to be able to have that. You're going to keep it covered. But the hardest part about a passing of a loved one is the burden left on the family. You know, they're not in the right state of mind to make those decisions at the moment. So it's best to have everything planned before it happens.
Yeah, you're right, and what we've done is Troy has really kind of taken the lead on that here at the office, and is really working to help people with that prepaid arrangements and getting that put in place. But one of the things in preparing for this segment, Troy, we were talking, and I looked at you and I asked you a simple question. If I were to pass away, do you have any idea what my desires are for the final day, so to speak?
Not a clue. I was just going to bury you in a Bengals jersey, probably.
There you go. But it's true. If you don't know what that loved one wants, like Nolan, you were saying earlier when we were on a break, one of the hardest things is to figure out, and especially if there's more than one family member involved, to come to an agreement on what mom or dad or that loved one would have wanted or what they did want. Trying to do that under the duress of the actual passing is not the right time to do that. It's just not the right time to put that in place. And there again, I talked with mom or talked with grandma, and I said, hey, at this point, you are at a position where you can determine what you want, instead of leaving it up to someone else to determine what your wishes are. And Nolan, I know you've got some experience with this. You worked with this a lot, and I know you've got some personal stories that you've shared with this as well.
I would agree. Both of us are going on 30 years of being in the industry. So whether it's personal life experiences or just working with clients, I know, I unfortunately lost my mom to cancer, but I had a little bit of time where I could talk to mom about what her wishes were, make some of those arrangements. Something, that jumped out to me was, at the funeral home, the guest book that you sign. Yep. I think it was like $350 to buy it, the guest book. I was able to buy it locally at a store and be able to get it for about $15. Yeah. So I was able to make smarter financial decisions. I can also, tell you from personal experience, when I lost my brother tragically, I was not in a good state of mind. And, I really bought the best of everything. And looking back, I'm glad we were, able to have a phenomenal funeral for him. But looking back, I don't know that he would have wanted us to spend the kind of money that we did. Sure. And I was emotionally in that state. So I think, number one, having a prepaid funeral arrangement is just good for you. It's good for your family. They say there's two certainties in life, death and taxes. So we might as well just check this one off the list. Sure. It's not a fun topic to talk about. Nobody likes talking about death, but it is a reality of life. And it's something that, you can take this checklist that we've put together, fill this out, put it with your important estate planning documents. That way, the kids or the spouse, they know what your wishes are. You can even communicate those wishes, work it together with your family or your spouse over the holidays, get it knocked out, put away, and then people know what those wishes are. And then in the other situation, we talk about the fact that people oftentimes will have their life savings wiped out if they or a loved one needs some type of long-term care. And whether it's a single or married couple, there's certain assets that are countable assets, and there's other assets that are uncountable assets. And when you have an irrevocable funeral trust here in the state of Ohio, that really can be another situation that can help people from a Medicaid spend down. So you're able to take money instead of giving your entire life savings over to the funeral home and burdening your family with the burial cost. In the state of Ohio, if set up correctly, you could get a prepaid funeral trust, not only check this off the list that it's all done, but have it as a protected asset. So heaven forbid, whenever you pass away, you've got that funeral already set aside, as long as you're following the guidelines, again, set out for Medicaid and how that works. And that's what we're happy to do. We're happy to kind of walk you through that ultimate estate planning checklist, provide you a copy of that, and help you navigate the landscape, and then, connect you with the right resources, either here locally or somewhere, nationally, to accomplish the wishes that you want.
And the phone number is 419-794-3030. Understand this is not, the most pleasant conversation to have, but it is certainly a lot easier to have than for your loved ones to have to make these decisions, as we said earlier, under duress. 419-794-3030 to get that ultimate estate planning checklist and so much more. You can also go to the website at arhq.com. Now, guys, I don't know if you knew this or not, but 2024, turns out it's actually an election year. I'm kidding, of course. We're all been inundated here. But given the volatility in the stock market that could happen leading up to November, there was an article in Kiplinger that suggests that financial risk reduction, well, it's a sound strategy. And that is especially true if you are in that retirement red zone, if you're within 10 years of retirement or perhaps even already retired. What are your thoughts? Do you agree? And how do we go about this risk reduction?
Well, I think what you talked about there is the time frame is the most important here, is when to focus on kind of the risk reduction category. So those people that are closer to or in retirement time. Troy, I know you're about the same age as my son Andrew, who also works here at the company. He's investing in the 401k as you are. And I'd say, for somebody who's young that has over, 10, 15, 20 years, or even longer till you need the money, what happens in the market this year is just noise, quite frankly. But, the difference is when somebody is already retired or somebody is just getting ready to retire, what happens in this election year can be a big deal. It can really have a big impact. It's because of what's called the sequence of returns. So one of the things in one of our most popular events that we do every year is called our Economic Summit. And we've got that event. It's coming up in March. We don't have the complete details right now. We're just finalizing our keynote speaker that's going to be at that event. But we'll be diving deep specifically into how to position your portfolio in an election year. But I would say if you step back and take a look at it, there's a lot of reasons that would indicate that the election year could be a positive year. In fact, I think it's roughly 8 out of 10 times if you go back and you look at since the S&P 500 has been around, an election year has been a positive year overall in the market. If we look at the month of January, it's been a positive month and it's been a positive way to kick off the year. There's another old saying in our industry that says, as January goes, so does the year go. So there's a lot of things that could lead to positives. But then if you take a step back and you look at that, the markets are either at or close to all-time record highs. So what's the basic sound principle of investing? You buy low and you sell high. Mm-hmm. So if you've been riding the highs of the market over the past year, now could be a really good time to maybe protect some of your winnings. And that could be a strategy for a risk reduction and kind of a sound strategy. You want to be taking a look at determining when is the time that you're going to be needing the money. Money that's going to be needed right now if you're living off of your financial assets that you saved and accumulated, or if it's money that you're going to need in the next 3 to 5 years, you may not want to have that money exposed to market risk. This is the core philosophy behind what we've talked about with the independent income system. So within the independent income system, what we're doing is we're creating these different buckets of money that are designed for different time frames. And so even a retiree, they might have 10, 15-year, 20-year money like you have, Troy. That's their long-term growth part of the portfolio. And keeping that long-term perspective, the less relevant the short-term noise becomes of the market. But to give as a tip for our listeners is be educated about what you own. You really need to understand the investments that you own. I asked that question when people call us up from the show or when people come into the office and get together with us, is I will ask, explain to me the methodology and the philosophy that's being used in your portfolio today to determine the investments that you own. Oftentimes people will look at me kind of like a deer in headlights. Sure. Because they just assume, well, that's somebody else's job. That's my financial advisor's job. And yes, a financial advisor's job is to help make smart investment decisions, but the people that are less educated about their investments are probably the people that are more likely to make poor investment decisions, like chasing the hot investment when the market's doing good, and then ultimately selling out or abandoning ship when the market's going down. So, take some time, become educated about your investments and what you own. We not only offer the independent portfolio analysis, again, we have a lot of different events that are coming up. That Economic Summit is a very popular one. Number 3, you want to know what your risks are and what your risk that you're comfortable with. With technology today, there's a lot of software that can help you develop an independent portfolio analysis and tell you, what your outcomes of your portfolio could be during various environments. While the market's doing good, you want to look at that number now. You want to look at what that risk score is, because while things are going good, if the risk level is too high, you can make adjustments now before something bad happens. And the fourth tip I'm going to give on this category is understanding that short-term volatility can create a long-term opportunity. There's a great article if you want to read more on this. It's written by Warren Buffett. In fact, he wrote it in October of 2008. If you Google it, it's Buy American IM. And he talked about, in that time frame, the market in 2008 had suffered some major market declines. In fact, the worst wasn't even over yet. It got worse after that. The market didn't bottom out until March of 2009. But if you have in your portfolio and you have a predetermined game plan, take short-term volatility and use it to create long-term opportunities. So there can be many different reasons why you want to look at a risk reduction strategy for 2024 with the big election year, with the markets at an all-time high. And if you want to figure out, what is the right way to do that, give us a call. We'll be happy to walk you through an independent portfolio analysis, give you an outline of the ins and outs of how to position your portfolio to not only survive, but thrive in 2024.
Especially as you get closer and closer to retirement, when you're in that red zone, you want to make sure that, you don't let volatility really jeopardize. In the same sort of way that, if you're on a flight, as you get closer and closer to your destination, any turbulence or anything that's going to cause delays, it's going to be tough to arrive on time. You don't want that to happen with your retirement. Have that independent portfolio analysis done to see, how to prevent market volatility or whatever may come down the line, whatever risk may come down the line from affecting those dates that you have in mind. It all starts with that phone call, 419-794-3030, or go into the website at arhq.com. Now, I don't know how to break this to you guys, but you might be drinking lots of plastic and not even know it. New research out of Columbia and Rutgers found that 1-liter bottles of water contain hundreds of thousands of previously undetected plastic particles, small enough to enter the bloodstream and potentially cause health problems. There's a lot of bad stuff, kind of like fees, that could also lurk in a retirement portfolio. How do you guys help detect them?
Well, that does sound like bad stuff hidden in something that you thought was healthy for you,
exactly.
Right? So, where you can find your investment fees and costs, I'm going to give you a couple of really good, easy tips that you can get, from some good free resources that are out there. So, if you have a 401k and or you own mutual funds, I love the website Morningstar.com. So, on Morningstar.com, what you can do is you can go over that website and then you can type in the mutual fund ticker symbol. And within the mutual fund ticker symbol, even on the free version of Morningstar, it'll tell you what the internal annual fees and expenses are on the investment that you have. It'll tell you whether the investment came with an upfront sales charge, whether the investment had a back-end sales charge. So right away, you can kind of see more transparency using the website Morningstar.com. They also have a paid version, which I personally use the paid version as well. Absolutely love that paid version too. But again, if you want to start out easy with a 401k or mutual fund, go to Morningstar.com. A variable annuity, it does take a little bit more homework. And a lot of times the variable annuities tend to be some of the most costly products that are out there. So if you have a variable annuity, if you need help, let us know. I know how to navigate this a little bit quicker, but you can go out and what you could do is you could Google the name of your product. So whatever the name of your variable annuity insurance company is and whatever the product that you're in, if you Google that, oftentimes you'll be able to get the prospectus or a fact sheet on that. And what you're predominantly looking for when you're looking to find out your investment fees and costs on variable annuities is you're looking for what is called the M&E, which stands for mortality expense ratio. You're looking for the admin fee, If you have any riders on your account, like a lifetime income benefit, an enhanced death benefit, you're looking for the rider fees. And then you're looking for the sub-account fees, so what your investments are. So typically in a variable annuity, it can be multiple different pages that you have to go to add it all up. And that's oftentimes why variable annuities can be some of the most costly products that are out there. Again, can be right for the right investor as long as they understand what they're paying for in exchange for what they get. The third category, which is probably the other most popular category, is what I would refer to as managed portfolios. With a managed portfolio, you're paying somebody to manage your portfolio. Those typically don't have upfront sales charges or back-end sales charges. You're paying some type of quarterly or annual management fee. Those fees can be fees that are where you write a check out and you pay a fat fee for services such as portfolio monitoring. They could be fees that are charged based upon the assets under management of your portfolio size. And a lot of those fees, you can review your investment statements. You can review whatever documents that you signed to determine what was disclosed in writing on the fees and expenses. And of course, in that situation, don't forget to add any underlying fees for where your holdings are. So 3 easy ways, depending on where you're at and where you can find your investment fees and costs, and help know what your expense ratio is.
Again, just like with those plastic particles, what you don't know may be harmful to you, especially when it comes to the fees eating away at your retirement, spending down your money unbeknownst to you. Have something like a fee analysis done. The team at America's Retirement Headquarters can help you with that. Just give them a call and request the time to speak with them, 419-794-3030. Let's talk sports for just a second. Don't worry, Scott, we're not going to talk about the Bengals at all here. But the concept of moving on, because it seems to be a very, very common theme in sports lately. Tiger Woods moving on from his deal with Nike. Patriots football coach Bill Belichick, he's moving on to another job. And Alabama coach Nick Saban, well, he is actually moving into retirement.
That's the problem. When you get my age, it's inevitable that it's coming at some point in time. This year, next year, the next year. And I didn't want to work on a year-to-year basis. I don't think that's fair to your staff. I don't think it's fair to the players. I think you need to make long-term commitments to people.
And especially with Saban, we've seen what that's done with a lot of the athletes and staff as far as entering the transfer portal, things like that. What if a financial advisor has decided to move on to a new firm? What kind of advice do you give to people when things like this happen?
I throw the security blanket to my clients and say, that's why we brought in Troy. We've got probably a good 8 to 10 years to mentor and get him up to speed where I'm at today. But, that's a big deal to a lot of people. And I've had several other advisors out there that have reached out because they're already into that point where they're 73 years old, they're still working, and they don't have a perpetuation agreement put in place. They've got no transfer of client information or anything to another advisor. What happens to that is, in my business, those clients are orphaned back to the insurance carrier. So they've got no representation. They've got nobody reaching out to them, helping them. If they've got a problem, they don't have a Troy that they can reach out to and say, hey, something's wrong with my billing. I have a problem with my claim. My prescription's not covered. My doctor, retired and I need to find a new doctor. Can you help me? They don't have any of that. And that's why we've put this, brought Troy into the mix here and get him up to speed when it comes to insurance and AMA. But on a financial, what happens with a financial advisor that retires? What happens to the business, and are they orphaned?
Well, it could be retiring, or it could be simply a financial advisor is changing firms. This is another thing that we'll see oftentimes. So when we think about the term of changing firms, there are 2 different types of industries that we have for financial advisors today. I would refer to them as a captive company,
okay,
and then I would refer to them as an independent financial advisory firm. So as an example, we're an independent financial advisory firm. We don't sell any company-owned products, and we have the ability to really search the complete independent space to determine what we believe is best for our clients and provide advice, in that capacity. Where a captive firm, they might have more of an incentive, from upper management or the company to promote a certain type of product. And so again, I think the first thing that you want to do is, do some research on the new firm to determine, what that new firm looks like. You can do that research by looking online, like Google is a good start, reading the kind of the reviews that they have on Google. Most financial advisors, you can look them up on a broker check website. So broker check is the financial advisor site for people who are licensed with FINRA. What you want to do there is you want to check for maybe any new disclosures from the financial advisor. So again, why are they leaving from one company to another? Did they choose to leave? Maybe they did something that the other firm considered inappropriate or, was just against their written policies and procedures. Maybe they were terminated. So you'll find that information on Broker Check. If they're registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC's advisor lookup allows you to look up and, read the background information about the particular advisor, where you can get, the ins and outs of what's happening. And then understand that your money, it's your money and you have choices with your money. So you could stay where you're at. In your terms of health insurance, you would refer to them as orphaned accounts. In financial services industry, we use the word house accounts.
Sure.
So a house account, the question, just like your health insurance, is who's going to watch over you? Right. I look at all the changes that's happened in the healthcare industry in the last couple of years. It would be the same would be true in the financial services industry. A lot is changing, and if your account is just left out there, whether it's orphaned or it's a house account, there's not really a captain of your ship. You're out there kind of on your own, but that is certainly a choice that you have. If your advisor retires or if your advisor changes firms, you have the choice to move over to that new firm. So when you look at the new firm, what you're going to want to do is you'd have to complete a series of paperwork, ultimately to transfer your accounts from one firm to the other firm. And the third option is maybe you can find a financial advisor that's different. Maybe it's time that you're looking for another opinion. Maybe your advisor has been changing quite a bit and you're just not comfortable always hopping ship to new firms.
Sure.
And, that could be another reason why you'd want to maybe look at changing a firm when your financial advisor changes. So if you felt that you haven't found the love, haven't found the home, I just know, as you say, I'm in it to win it. I'm in it for life for my clients.
Absolutely.
I plan on being here for a long time. We've obviously got Troy. My son Andrew works here. We've got, multiple generations that we've thought about building this out with, again, sitting right here, over 60 years of experience that are helping navigate this type of landscape. And when you work with us, you work with our team. So our goal is to work with you and be the resource for your family throughout your entire retirement journey.
You can actually find out more about the team at the website, arhq.com. Learn more about Nolan, Scott, the entire team at America's Retirement Headquarters. You can also schedule a time to speak with them right there. You can also give a call if you like, 419-794-3030. It is estimated that almost 11,000 baby boomers retire and leave the workforce every single day. Some of them, they're small business owners. So let's talk to them for a minute. What advice do you give to business owners that are considering a succession plan?
Well, I know we talked about this in an earlier segment of talking about, what if your financial advisor retires, but the same applies to any small business owner. I think a lot of these issues are issues that, we need to take a look at. First and foremost, I would say in my experience of working with a lot of business owners, even the ones that aren't looking to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, number one, you need to have a written business succession plan in place now. Think about it. Like in my particular situation, I have a written succession plan. And that way the business can continue on. My clients can continue to get service. My family is also taken care of and my staff is taken care of. I know in the last couple of years, I had met with some business owners that are small business owners here in town, and they haven't even put anything in writing. And so if you think about the businesses that really get just pennies on the dollar when something bad happens, like the owner dies or becomes disabled, it's because they don't have a formal business succession plan in place. And that business plan can be good now, but it helps you get ready for the future because you naturally just want to gradually transition into retirement time and enjoy the fruits of your labor. So when you're, I'd say 2 to 5 years out, that's really where you want to start looking toward getting a solid business valuation. by having that 2 to 5 years out, you can get some coaching and advice from somebody who specializes in business transitions on, how to position your business to get maximal transferable business value. Maybe there's a couple of steps that you need to take with good housekeeping to get things in order. You also have the ability where you're starting to get a plan to understand in the next 2 to 5 years what's next, and working through that checklist. No different than we talk about getting ready for health insurance. If you have a couple of years to plan ahead, especially if you're going to retire before the age 65, a couple of years ahead of schedule will make a big difference.
If you don't put together a succession plan and you're all of a sudden looking to retire, you're not doing anybody any favors by doing that. And this is something that can take place, yes, 2 to 5 years out, but this is something that can start taking place much earlier than that. One of the things that you and I talked about was key man insurance, and key man insurance is basically a life insurance policy where if one of the business partners passes away, you might not necessarily want their spouse to come in and start, running the show for their 50% of the ownership. So you buy them out with funding it with life insurance. So these are all things that you would want to have put in place. Well, you're right. There's so many small businesses that are just not prepared for this at all.
If you think like a big corporation, all big corporations have a CEO and a CFO. That CFO's job is to help get the advice and get the team put together to kind of help guide you through this business succession planning, determining what type of professionals you're going to need at the table and making sure that everybody's on the same side of the table, making those decisions together. That could be the financial advisor, the tax consultant. It could be the attorney, the insurance professional. But as we point out, the decisions that you make in one category are going to, impact the decisions in the last category. And then number 4 is executing your transition plan. So that could be either an internal sale to a child, another family member, a key employee. That could be an external sale, selling it out to another business, either through a merger or some type of acquisition. But knowing how to position your business for the best sale and getting that done, again, 2 to 5 years ahead of time allows you to develop what's referred to as a pitch book to have things put in the right place.
Because leaving the workforce behind is already something that probably requires a gentle hand, a little bit of help. When you are responsible for a workforce of your own, even more so. So let the team at America's Retirement Headquarters help you out with that. Reach out now, 419-794-3030. It's never too early to start planning that succession plan. It's never really too late. There's no time like the present, honestly. 419-794-3030. You can always find them online at arhq.com. We really do appreciate you joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Hope you all stay safe out there. Gentlemen, as always, grateful for the time. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Well, I think now that it's at the end of January, I think the statistic is a lot of people are starting to abandon their New Year's resolutions. So I think 40% or so are maybe struggling with those New Year's resolutions. So if you're going to the gym, keep going. Get a buddy to go with. And if you've had financial goals that are part of 2024 and you haven't made the step to take action in writing or set up an appointment to get something done, give us a call. Let's help you conquer your 2024 financial and healthcare New Year's resolutions. Because when you think retirement, think America's Medicare Associates, the Retirement Guys formula, and it's all right here in America's Retirement Headquarters. We'll see you next week, same time, right here on 1370 WSPD.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstance. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.